I think it's talking about the speed of light and photons and how photons work and how we perceive vision, because photons are acting within our visual optic, or they're literally going inside of our eyes at a certain pattern, and our eyes are taking in the entire wave with the photon simultaneously to paint a visual picture, right? That's what we was getting to. Now, where they can go as fast as the speed of light, but nothing with the mass can go at the speed of light. So, because as it approaches the speed of light, its mass increases, and it becomes infinite, which means it can never hit the speed of light. So then, I said, well, what about a photon? Isn't that like an atom or whatever? You know, he was like, well, actually, it's sort of like that. But it's like, if it exists, that means it moves through space. And if it moves through space, then it must have mass. So a photon said it had no mass. The mass of a photon is 1 over infinity, and which is an impossible number, actually. It basically means that if it has mass, it's so small it cannot be measured. And so infinity makes it unmeasurable, since it has no mass. But if you talk to an engineer, a photon weighs 0. If you talk to, what do you say, a physicist, they say it depends on what infinity is. I'm like, what the fuck? So what is infinity? How many infinities are there? And then I started to really make sense of that. So basically, science is like religion. It's just split. Because everything they have as far as data is collected differently than is based on proof, based on science. It's based on mathematical equations and experiments. But religion is just like, it is what it is and it is what it is. Science says, this is what it is because of this, this, and this. And it's because of this, this, and this that this exists. And it's because of this, this, and this that this exists. But once they get to the very core bottom of everything, it's going to be literally, it is what it is. So the same results yield for each thing, religion and science. So science is basically a mathematical religion. And he said, okay, that makes sense. I say, so if that's the case, that means that we actually don't know anything, because science has to come to some conclusion sometime. If they come to a conclusion as religion comes to a conclusion, then that means there's no real truth about anything. Like, we're doing things because we're doing them, you know. Religion has very little validity, and science has a lot more. So, but in the end, the true form of science is still an unknown. Like, as far as how deep you can go, because they went past atoms into, like, quasars or whatever, and they're like these fibers that are supposed to make up atoms. You know, and then there's dark matter, but dark matter is a theory, and the way the Big Bang is still a theory, and there's a lot of other theories going on in all theories. See, in religion, they just say this is what happened, or this is how it was said as by such and such Joe or John or whoever. That's what they said, so it is what they said it is, because they have written account. But religion works, not religion, science works the same way. So then it starts saying, so basically we actually don't know what we know. And if there are kids, and, well, not kids, but if there are people at the University of, let's say, Virginia, it's like, I can't remember what university it was, but they found out how to go faster. They found out how to get to Mars in 30 days on propulsion, which, if you went the conventional way, we've been doing it for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it would take us 6 months. So you're basically going 6 times faster. They found a way to make an engine that can do it, which means that if they can do that through more science, they can find a way to approach light speed. But if they can do that, then that means that Einstein's theory of relativity is wrong, and we have to start all over. But nobody wants to start all over. So they set things in place so that you can't exceed the laws. It's like with religion, you can't exceed any laws, because if you do, you go to hell. If you do it with science, then you're wrong. And that's it. So we came to the conclusion that science is a mathematical religion based on facts, but not the absolute fact. Like, the science may be wrong, and the fact that calculus has a built-in error measurement, like, something cannot be an absolute zero in calculus. Like, you can build a margin of error where it can be the number over infinity. So, to the infinitieth power, or like basically be like 1 point infinity. Hence, it can be solved. So they're using shortcuts to try to cut down on the math. So they're using shortcuts to try to get away with shit. Then that means, how are they ever to be right about anything?
Right.
So, came to the conclusion that science is just like religion, just completely opposite views. And then it's like science is almost as irrelevant as religion could be if people just stop believing.
Well,
We did all this in a truck, in a trailer. So we're loading boxes, and we're talking about this in 30 minutes.
I could see how science could be religion, because it's always, once you look at different religions, they are used to try to make another religion seem wrong or false or inadequate.
Yeah.
So people do that with science. Like, okay, well, Jesus couldn't have been born and resurrected, but he could have did this and that and blah, blah. He couldn't walk on water, but blah, you know. Like, science is always trying to debunk all religions. And then people try to use religion to debunk science. So, yeah, it could. Yeah, I can see that. Because once you look at Christianity, they try to make it, some people try to use Christianity to debunk Islam, like the Muslims. They try to debunk Judaism and Buddha, like Buddha and all that, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that.
Thing, but yeah, you do the same thing with all the other sciences. It's like physicists say that engineers are wrong, engineers say physics is wrong, calculus says this is wrong and that's wrong. And it's literally like you're learning all this stuff. It's like when you learn basic math, 1 + 1 is 2. Next thing you know, x equals y, and then x squared equals y squared. Then you got to worry about this, and then they got all kinds of graphs and charts and all these things that come into the effect. And basically to try to describe things like waves and energy displacement and how everything works. But then it comes down to the point where I remember hearing that, it was all about photons bouncing off of things and hitting your eye, and it paints a picture of the world. And then I heard about something else saying, that's not right. It's actually different. What we see is what we see, because the sun's rays and, they had another whole definition about it. And I'm like, well, damn, okay, so if one person says this and the other person says that, and it's like they have to try to false each other, and it's a constant struggle back and forth. They're like, who's right? The same thing. It's crazy that we have all this shit here, like air conditioning is because of science, TV is because of science, cameras are because of science, everything is because of science, yet science is running in its own way. It's crazy. Like, every machine we got is because of science. It's because somebody did something, but I think most people just figured shit out. Like they figured out how to display an image, or they figured out how to create a motor, or they figured out how to create something else. And I mean, everything else is just a variation of the same thing. Like your phone with a screen on it, based on TV, it's based on LEDs. How old are LEDs? They're as old as calculators. So really, it's just taking super old stuff and then making it new, making it modern, adding lights to it, and that's all it is. And then it just make it smaller and smaller and smaller. And really, it comes down to literally everything is based on old technology. Like when the first calculator came out, where you could press a button and it'll pop up on a screen, that's your TVs today.
Yeah.
If not for that calculator, we wouldn't have LED TVs, plasma TVs, LCD TVs. We wouldn't probably have any of that stuff. And because of projectors back in the 30s, when they first started doing movies, we wouldn't have ELP TVs, like the big motorcycles like what Kurt got. We didn't have them. You know, I found out, like, you know, just basic programming, 8-bit, lights coming on and going off. You know, just the ones and zeros makes up every computer we got today. And they just basically took that basic technology, this, and this, put it all together, and next you know, boom, they got a cell phone.
Yeah. And then when you look at a lot of the things that they have on the chart stuff, it's like you have this with the triangle of that, and this makes this, and then you have X, Y, Z plus B, and like, what the fuck is this? Well, this is how television works. Like, no. You cannot tell me this is how television works when you got X, Y, C, and all that stuff with the triangle and all this. Like, well, this is the area that you want on the screen to be displayed, and then you have to have this in the axis of the X and Y. The X is the up and down, the Y is the cross. So that's how you have that going. So it knows how far to spread. Like, that's too much. But then again, you know, you could have, this is one thing that kind of gets me, is when two Christians, supposedly Christians, argue over the same religion.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's like having two engineers go, you know, talk about the same thing, but they argue why this is right and why that's not right. Like, what? Are y'all doing the same study?
Yeah. They come to different conclusions.
And then when you listen to both of them, makes you don't even want to get in with any one of them because, hey, Christianity is wrong, period, now. He says it's wrong. He says that his way of thinking is wrong because of this, this, and this. It's a fact. It's in the Bible. Okay, so if you take everything in the Bible as a fact, what he's arguing right now is he's getting them. But then the other guy says his little facts of why his views is wrong. And it's in the same Bible. They have the same Bible. They're speaking from the same book, but they're telling each other why they're wrong. And it's like, well, if you're both wrong, then this whole religion itself should be wrong. As a person thinking logically. But then somebody else will come by and say, no, you can't think like that because they're both wrong. Because if you look here, it says this is this, which means this. And it's like everything could be interpreted different. It's like when Kurt and DDC was going back and forth. It's like you're going to have your own type of thoughts, and you know, everything that you see in this thing is going to have a different meaning to different people. Even though you read the same line, but what does it mean to you is going to be different because of the way you lived and everything like that. But with science, everybody should come to the same conclusion if it's an exact fact, because it's going to be one formula used for this. Now, if you didn't get it right, it's because maybe it was something in the formula that you didn't add or calculate up right. So that'll be the only way you'd be wrong, because it's supposed to be an exact fact. Just like no matter how you put one and one together, it's still going to be two, because it's going to be two things coming together in this one thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so science work is like 1 plus 1 equals 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 times 1 equals 1. And 1 to 1 third equals 1. And then 1 equals 1 over X times Y, or, you know, but then you get to 2, that starts to get real complicated. Then you get to 3, it gets even more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
If you did 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 to the second power is 4. But as soon as you get to like 3, then it's a bunch. And then 4, and then it's just as many, and there's more. And the higher you get, the more it gets. But the way it kind of goes is like this sort of graph that kind of swoops up and eventually gets to a point and comes back down like a wave. So, but, you know, it's when you start applying variables to different forms of math, and you get completely different results, and that it's all different. Now it's like you do one math problem, like algebra, and it turns out to be 7. And if you do it in calculus, it turns out to be 38 or 1 or 2. And if you do it in this, it turns out to be low number, maybe 0.7 or something, you know, because they're applying all these different formulas to try to get to the same conclusion. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't work.
And then there's another thing with religion and science that have kind of in the same thing, right? Now, there's two types of Muslims. There's the classic Muslims, and then there's another one. I forgot what the word for them were, right? But it's like the classic Muslims are the ones who pray 5 times a day. They go by that book, that standard. Then when you have this other type of Muslims, they're in the way like Christians. They go out and have sex, do all the stuff that, all the bad stuff, and then just go into the mosque, because that's what they go to. They go to the mosque like on Sunday or something and think they're all cured. Just like when you have in Christianity, you have your classic Christians and then your new modern day Christians. So when you look at that and you look at science, you have I'll say mathematics, because math and science kind of go hand in hand. But when you look at math, you have your people who do arithmetic, you have the people who do just regular multiplication, and it's like different branches off, but it's all the same thing. So it's like, well, I think calculus uses the X and Y thing just like pre-calculus. Like I said, pre-calculus, calculus, all that stuff. It's like all these different branches off of, all of it is going to be mathematics at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it. But what you doing? Oh, I'm doing arithmetic. Oh, so you're doing math. No, this is arithmetic. It's math. You're still taking stuff, adding it up, getting equations. I don't care how many formulas you got, you're still math under the general context, because if you go to school for it and you take a math course, you're learning all this stuff, but it's math.